move this highly advanced technology around here. All right, we'll wait a minute or two, let some people get on here. All right, we have 4 people. All right. Nine, awesome, okay. Wolf Party, how's it going? Rod, howdy, Chris, Tyler. Tyler remembered, good job, Tyler. And everybody else too, 14. Mr. Bullion, I guess I'm saying that right. So I'm still, hi Richard, Russell, Dan, Don, Liberty. Doing pretty good, Wolf Party. Oh, there's me on there, that's my wife. Hey babe, how's it going? Hey Blake, Sad Mule, Dan's fishing, but he'll pay attention. Appreciate it. All right, 20 people. Wow, this is great. So, I had a couple things I was going to talk about today, and the first thing I mentioned is who gets the snake skin buoy. Let me grab that real quick here. So this is the snake skin buoy that we've been working on the channel here. It is, hey William, it's a ball bearing Damascus or pattern welded steel, and it's turned out pretty cool. And several people have mentioned being interested in it when it's done, and it will be for sale, and that's what people have asked, if it's going to be for sale. It will be for sale. Help pay the bills and all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of thinking about what's the best way to kind of make it fair, I guess you could sort of say, for whoever's wanting it. A couple of people have already mentioned interest in it, and so I didn't ever tell anybody that they had first dibs or anything like that. So from this point, I think maybe there's a couple different options. You can either put up a deposit on the website, and whoever wants to, it's sort of a first come first serve maybe, or another way maybe is we could do like a raffle for a chance to call dibs on. I guess that's another way we could do it. You don't pay for the raffle or anything. That just gives you the opportunity to put the deposit on it so that when it's finished you can buy the knife. So those are just a couple ideas I had. I don't know what you guys think of that. However, I do have something to show you guys. Chris says live bid on eBay. Yeah, that could work. I think I do have an eBay account. Well, I do because I buy stuff off of there, but I've never had any luck selling stuff on there. So I don't know, but this would be a little different. Weston says auction. That's a possibility. So I have something to show you guys here. Hopefully I can get reception over to where I'm going. So today I was able to, I don't know if I can switch the camera around here. There we go. Okay, so this is exciting right here, guys. If you've watched the channel for very long, you know that I never put a foot pedal on my forging press until today. So I don't know if I can get the whole thing in here. Let me see if I can get the whole deal in here, and I'll show you how it works. Let's see here. It's not. Okay, go back in. All right. My kids ran out to tell me that I was too far from the. I lost the signal. So I don't know if you guys even saw the foot pedal working on the forging press or not, because we lost the signal there. So I don't know who saw that or not. But anyway, I got a foot pedal put on the forging press today, and let's see if it's readjusted here. That's pretty exciting because one of the things with forging hammers and hatchets and all that kind of stuff that I think would make it easier for me anyway is the ability to basically use a old-fashioned punch, sort of like you would on a power hammer, which requires the use of two hands. And so, yeah, sorry, I don't have this, got this messed up. I think the forging press is just too far from the signal. It's not going to work. So you'll see that in future videos here. But anyway, that's exciting because that means I can start doing stuff that's kind of hard to do with just one hand. So kind of excited about that. Let's see what somebody said here. Dan's back to building stuff. Sad Mule says sell raffle tickets for the knife. Yeah, we could do that too. Anyway, the foot pedal. So that was kind of fun. I've had an idea in my head for quite a while. It's pretty basic, just a mechanical, pushes it up and down. And I just kind of built. I don't really have dimensions for it because I just kind of built it to whatever fit, or the range of motion that was necessary. So anyway, that's cool. So you guys talking about the idea of a raffle or an auction on the knife. I don't know for sure what I'll do yet. I think what we do need to figure out though is a way to notify everybody. So I guess just stay tuned to the channel. If you're interested in the Snake Skin Bowie, just keep an eye out on the channel, and I will post it on the community posting or whatever. I'll make sure to post it up there, if nothing else, simultaneously or before I put it up on the website for a deposit, or yeah, at the very least. I mean, that's sort of a first come first serve type deal. I'll think about like a auction or a raffle though too. That's a little more complicated. Anyway, yeah, so that was the one thing I was going to talk about. Showed you the foot pedal on the forging press. That's fun. Kind of excited about that because so if you've been watching the channel for any length of time, you'll know that forging hatchets, I've forged probably 8 or 10 of them, and maybe one was something that I would sell. Okay, the rest of them would function sort of, but just not up to par. And my biggest problem has been getting the eye punched and drifted to my satisfaction, which straight and everything like that. It's just been a pain, and so I haven't really used the press. I've tried to use the press without much success, and I think this is going to help. I think the foot pedal is going to help. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, I do have another idea for a tomahawk, and it's going to involve some ball bearings, I think. So that's just a little teaser there, but we'll see here. So Don's got to put the kids to bed. Yeah, I know how that is. He must be on the East Coast. Or they go to bed early, which is probably a good thing. So somebody mentioned or asked where I got my ball bearings from. I got them off of eBay. What are you doing? This is Maggie. Hi, Max. You're supposed to be in the house. Get ketchup on your face. All right, right in the house with Mom, okay? Hurry. So anyway, the second thing I was going to talk about is how we can sell. Yeah, she's a future shop apprentice. The second thing we can talk about is how you can sell your knives as a bladesmith or knife maker. And I just thought I'd share some of my experience with things that I've worked on or things that I've used to sell knives. And you guys could certainly chime in because I certainly haven't done it all. I've got a few ideas. I've got a few things that have worked. But there's a lot of different ways to do stuff. I was going to mention though, I got a comment on the channel recently here. Somebody said they would, they said, get your politics out of your shop and I might watch more than 10 seconds of your video. Which it's kind of funny because if this is politics, then you haven't seen much yet. I don't really do politics on this show, on this channel at all. Secondly, I think the mistake he made was that I was more concerned with a couple views than I am with my convictions. So anyway, yeah. So how do we sell our knives? How do we sell our knives? Yeah, Wolf Party. So a couple guys messaged. Yeah, right. Couple guys messaged with ideas as far as what I could have done better, and so I was trying to sort of mimic. So okay. The last video I did was on trying to forge a folded hatchet, mild steel body with a breakaway book says they clicked on because of the Gadsden flag. Oh, and I also actually that's not the only comment I've had on the Gadsden flag, but I want to get the flag, the Appeal to Heaven flag, and maybe even the Sons of Liberty flag. So if you want some more early American history, then that's an interesting thing to look up as well. An Appeal to Heaven and the Sons of Liberty. So if you see those, if you know what those are, if you see them in the shop, you'll know what they are. Anyway, where was I? Okay, so kind of got off on a rabbit trail here, but the last video I did was on a folded hatchet, right? And I had seen a video. I had seen a video of a axe company in Maine that was filmed in the early 1960s, and it went out of business shortly after that video. But they were forging full-sized felling axes with that method, and I thought that was pretty neat because there's just some different techniques involved there. And I failed to execute the technique. But one of the things that I did that I shouldn't have is I didn't forge down or feather down the carbon steel insert, the carbon steel insert was a little larger than it needed to be anyway, and really kind of too long. I'll grab it here. So here it is, and it looks pretty good from like here forward, and then not so good behind it. Again, I had a terrible time getting the eye straight, but what I thought was going to make drifting the eye easier actually made it more difficult because, when you forge weld, you fold it together and forge weld this piece of high carbon steel in there. This resulting sort of hole or opening was not aligned with the bit or anything like that, so kind of got things started crooked. So unlike where you start with a fresh punch, it kind of set me on a wrong direction, and it was a kind of a pain. So the other thing I discovered is the cold shuts that form in here, but the way I did this didn't work. So, but anyway, what I should have done was I should have forged this piece of high carbon steel down thin to this point, so that the two pieces of mild steel came together here instead of that. So there's some things to try that I gotta work on, and we'll try to get it to work next time. So where was I going with that? I don't remember. Anyway, yeah. So all right, let's talk about selling knives. Wolf Party, do a part 2 of the axe. Well, the part 2 would be throwing this in the garbage and starting over, actually. So I don't know if I'm going to do that on here. Yeah, I'm starting to go bald too, so it's just the way it is. All right, selling knives. This is the third time I've said this thing. One of the things that, okay, so you can sell knives online. I've sold knives online on various venues. I've used Etsy, which when we first started out on Etsy, that was like 5 years ago, it was a pretty decent company to sell on. The things that have changed in the last 5 years that I've noticed personally are it's gotten a lot bigger, but a lot more commercialized, and I've seen them raise the rates on their sellers. I've seen them, really try to squeeze as much as they can from their sellers. And if you're doing well on Etsy, then I guess you can afford that, and it's it is what it is. It's just the cost of doing business. Excuse me, but if you're a smaller shop, then it really takes a big chunk out of your profit. So that's kind of a pain. Probably the biggest problem with Etsy that I've seen since we were on there, and so just right as of right now, I sell very little on Etsy. Really kind of moved away from that platform for the reasons that I'm mentioning. So they've raised their rates. They have become an extremely liberal company, that to the point where if you sell a knife that's in any way represented as quote unquote tactical or self-defense or anything like that, they'll flag it and or take it down. So if you're going to sell edged tools on there, it has to be, kitchen knives, I guess, or something that's not in any way construed as a, which is ridiculous because any tool can be used in a nefarious manner. So it's just changed. And so the reason that I still have my account up there is because I do still sell a couple of small forged goods. I make the horseshoe deals with the hearts in the middle. We still sell some of those. And then I do have a few knife listings up there. And the reason I still have the account up there is, well, two different accounts for different stuff, is because there's literally hundreds of sales on there from the past 5 years and reviews. And so it's kind of been a portfolio, if you could say, and that's the reason that I've left it up there. But it's not, I'm not going to leave it up there forever. Fortunately, we've been able to move away from that platform and, to other stuff. So that's my story with Etsy. That's not to say that you can't do good on there. And the shops that are doing really well that I see on there are ones that are that are blacksmith goods, not knives per se. So there's quite a number of shops on there that do really well. Hello from Mississippi, which reminds me, I'm wearing my Richie Crew shirt. He's from Mississippi. He was the guy that I was on in the final round with on Forged and Fire. So that's Richie Crew. So if you're doing blacksmithing stuff, or, you know, I'm not saying you can't make money on Etsy. The pros to it, as opposed to other online platforms that I've used, one of the pros is that Etsy does typically do a fairly good job of advertising to get your product in front of customers, because that's how they make money. I've tried several different other smaller online venues that apparently don't do that, and I've literally had stuff sit up there for months and have almost zero views and no sales at all. So that is one good thing about Etsy. People are talking about Forge and Fire. Season 6, episode 8 was the one on there. The one that I was on. So Etsy, that's kind of the pros and cons. That's where, you know, I don't use it too much anymore. I sell a few things on there, but mostly transitioned away. So that's what I've used. Another online venue that I've had pretty good success with is Custom Made, which I don't really sell anything on there anymore either. I still have my stuff up there because it's sort of a portfolio once again, and it's also a sort of a link, you know, to, like, when you search Fire Creek Forge, a lot of times that's what'll come up first, and so they can find me that way. Custom Made, they primarily do like jewelry and stuff, but they have, like, it's Custom Made Marketplace where you sell, there's other things on there. When I first got on there, it was just Custom Made. Now the things that are not jewelry, I guess, are on Custom Made Marketplace or whatever. But they, I've done okay on there too. And it also kind of depends on how much, you know, time and effort you put into the venue. Like, if you're keeping it up to date, and that kind of thing, then, you know, you're gonna have more traffic and this kind of stuff. So Troy asked if I can direct people from Etsy to my page. Not directly, but I have my website address up there, and so if anybody goes to either the Etsy page or the custom made page, they'll see my website, so they can get to it from there pretty easy. So those are the online venues, and then of course my own website, which is what are pretty much all my online sales are at currently right now. And that's so I have my website through GoDaddy, and they depending on the type of hosting package that you buy, they will put your SEO out there and that kind of stuff. And I'm not an expert on any of that at all, but if you just buy a URL and you know, build a website, that in and of itself is not enough to get your website in front of people in the search. You know, when somebody searches like knives or whatever, you know, hand forged knives or whatever. So you have to have some kind of search engine optimization, and the package that I pay for does that. I don't know how super great, but it does it to the extent where people, you know, people can find me. So the online sales that I do are primarily my own website now, which is great. So that's good. And then what else? That's kind of, well, I was on Facebook. I got off of that a while back. Don't miss that. It really didn't help me. I know some guys have a pretty big following on Facebook with their knives and stuff. I have to close that door. I've got sunlight. Yeah, Facebook really wasn't worth my time. Not on Instagram, not going to be. There's just companies that I am not going to support and I'm not going to waste my time on. It's not to say that other guys don't, you know, have good success on there. But that's just me. So, and then of course YouTube, that I feel like that maybe helps get things out there a little bit. I'm not sure, but that's my experience selling knives online. Let me go close this door real quick here. Okay. Yeah, so, oh, and then okay, then I've that's not my complete experience. I have tried. So here's an interesting story. So Amazon, yeah, what's Tinker? I don't know what Tinker is. I've seen people talk about. Oh, an Air Force Base. I'm sort of halfway following the comment conversation here while I'm blabbing, so I don't know exactly what's going on. But so what's interesting is as Etsy was getting big, Amazon, well, as Etsy was getting big and like the whole handmade, handcrafted thing was getting big, Amazon wanted to jump on the bandwagon. This was several years ago. So they created Amazon Handmade or whatever they call it. And I was like, Amazon's a big platform, so it might be worth trying to put some stuff in there. So I signed up and everything. Well, in the beginning, they actually charged you to have an account, regardless of if you sold anything or not, which is not a good deal. I didn't sell anything because, again, I don't know if they didn't really do any advertising for you, or if you're expected to somehow drive traffic to your Amazon, handmade deal. I don't know, but it didn't work out for me. And I got off of there. Interestingly enough, a couple years later, or maybe it was just a year later, they changed their policy where they did not charge you a flat fee. It was based on, sales commissions basically. Which was not surprising because basically they were trying to, kill the golden goose before it even got off the ground. Like people were going to pay money just to have their stuff on Amazon. Well, it didn't work, obviously, because they changed that. And I never tried to get back on because I don't really care about that. So that was interesting. I mean, I don't know. That's the problem. So Etsy was a great platform at one point because it wasn't too big. It was sort of the go-to place for handmade stuff, and then it got really big, and not only with the issues that I mentioned earlier, but you just kind of get lost in all the noise. So then another online venue that I've tried is eBay, and again, I haven't taken the time to figure out how to drive traffic to that. So I'm just narrowed down to my own website now, which is kind of what I wanted to do in the beginning anyway. Bob asked where we're at in Texas. We're in the Lubbock region, which reminds me, I need to sweep the shop still because about half of West Texas blew in here the other day in our little Texas windstorm. So I had this idea. You've heard of wind farms? I could do a dirt farm because you just sit around and wait, and then you have like this much dirt built up. After a windstorm, you just shovel it out. I don't know if there's a market for that or not, but anyway. Let's see, what was I going to say next? All right, so that's kind of the online stuff. Yeah, I'm going to stop talking in a little bit here and like answer questions and stuff. But so online is just one place to sell stuff. See you later, Paul. Another venue that we had pretty good success with was actually a farmer's market back in Idaho. And that kind of petered out at the beginning of 2020, which was interesting. And it kind of drove everything to online sales for me, which there's an advantage to that because then it doesn't really matter where you're at. Your location is sort of inconsequential. But it was a great venue. So it wasn't a huge farmers market, but it was in Moscow, Idaho, which is a university town, and we literally had people from all over the world that would come through there, and definitely all over the country and the region. And so you wouldn't necessarily think that you would be selling knives at a, higher end knives at a farmer's market. But if you stop and think about it, everybody that's there, is there, prepared to spend, $1 per potato for organic grown, or whatever it is, per potato for organic grown potatoes, or whatever it is they're buying. So the stuff that is being sold there is typically high quality, organic, all this kind of stuff. So the people that are there have this idea of sort of value, and some of them appreciate or like knives, whether it's a kitchen knife or bushcraft knife or whatever. So the concept actually works, and it worked. And we did that was a significant portion of our income for several years, and it ran for 6 months out of the year. So farmers market's not something you necessarily think that where you would sell knives, but that one was good. And the reasoning behind that, so they had about, I think it was like 2/3 produce and food vendors, and then like 1/3 artists. And so that's sort of they really supported the artist community there, and that was the thinking behind that, and it was a good deal. Other shows that we've tried shows that were not good. I mean, you just don't really know until you try them. I have not tried gun and knife shows. I have not tried gun shows. I have not actually been to a knife show, and that's something I want to do. Why not? Because it seems like they're always, minimum of 6 or 8 hours away. And I you have to take the time and build some product for, going to a show. And I've done that, but not for a knife show. So I don't have a lot of experience with, taking my knives someplace and selling them. And a lot of guys do that. And I think there's some real advantage to that. For example, you go to like Blade Show, the big one, or there's all kinds of other ones. But I think, people are there to buy knives if they're coming to a knife show, like they're knife collectors or enthusiasts or whatever you want to call it. And so it makes sense, It's just something I haven't taken the time to do yet. The other side of that too is like if all your sales, which, if most of your sales are in shows, then you have to go someplace to sell your knives, and that's going to add expense and time and that kind of stuff. So that's something to think about too. I do really appreciate the ability to sell my stuff online almost exclusively, because that gives me the freedom to, to live where I want to live, and then not have to, try to travel a lot or at all, really. But I do want to go to some knife shows, and so at some point. So that's kind of it. That's kind of my take on selling knives, what I've done so far, and I'm sure you guys have a lot of ideas that are good too. So throw those out there. And then, there's other places online too, like blade forums. Some guys have spent some time on there and got their work kind of in front of people. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. A lot of different places and stuff. So VW Living says, create a local brick and mortar space for fine art blades, like a proper art gallery. We've talked about like a brick and mortar type deal, which would be cool. We don't live in the right area for that right now. I think you need to have a little bit of population, but farmers markets in Jersey, they're full of Chinese knives. That's too bad. But when I was at the farmers market there in Idaho, I would bring my small forge, my anvil, and just a few basic tools and stuff, and I would forge. I had to set up a little perimeter fence to keep people out. That I think that was probably, I forgot to mention that earlier, but that was probably a big part of why we were successful there, because it pulls people in, and people really like seeing stuff. I would forge blades there and stuff. I obviously wouldn't finish them there, but then I would also forge things like, the leaf keychains, a number of other items that you can finish right there. So that was neat. That was pretty fun, but that really helped to pull people in. There's other things like there was like a Renaissance fair, which we never went to that, but we could have if we wanted to. And you can sell stuff there, and anywhere that you can set up a simple setup and be out there forging something, that probably really helps, I think. So that's just a little side note there. So let's see what some people are saying here. I keep bumping the screen here. Sorry, it's just kind of wobbly. Somebody says collaboration, more collaborations with YouTube bladesmiths. That might bring in more business. Yeah, on the YouTube side of it, I think that's a great thing. And that's the other thing too, is like right now I'm kind of focusing on the YouTube aspect of it, because I think there's a lot of potential here on YouTube, which I kind of talked about last time we did a live stream, so I won't go into too much, in depth. But my wife says, I miss farmers market. We sold a lot of dinner bells too. Yeah, that's right. Hearts, leaves, knives. A lot of doctors were my customers. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we had a lot of doctors that, like, we had one doctor that I think he bought like 5 knives because he was a collector, and he kept coming back and seeing because I try to bring new stuff every week. And, I tried to keep, it was kind of interesting. So it was basically a retail setup. And I found out that if I had, 8 knives or less, on display, sales went down. Like if I had, 10 or more knives, sales were better. And that's, I don't know what the concept is called, but I know people who were in retail forever, and they like, yeah, you have to have, your display has to tell people that you're the real deal or whatever. Like people have to feel confident, or like they want to buy from you. Anyway, there's just a lot of different stuff to it, which is interesting, but that's one little tip. Your display is very important, and having just a few things out there is never good. So anyway, my wife was saying, yeah, we sold a lot of dinner bells, all that stuff. And I actually sold a couple of knives to Mike Ayupati, who last I heard was playing for the Seahawks. He was with, I think he was with the 49ers when he came by, but he went to University of Idaho, I guess. And so he was back in town for some kind of, I think it was some kind of football camp. I don't even know. But anyway, he came by and bought some knives, which was, it's kind of funny because he walked up and he's like, are these homemade knives? And he's just a kind of quiet guy, big dude, obviously. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I'll take this one and this one. And it was kind of funny because most of the time people don't come up there and be like, yeah, I'll take this one and this one or whatever. Like they look at him for a long time or whatever. So I was like, oh, this guy apparently has some expendable income. So that was pretty cool. I have a picture of that, but yeah, farmers market, it was a pretty good deal. So let's see here. Wolfworth, Tyler says Wolfworth, am I saying that right? Has a great farmers market, just FYI. I'll have to check that out. We'll have to check that out. Do you know if it's running right now or when it starts? Yeah, exactly. We're out in the middle of nowhere, so. Yeah, collaborations with, to go back to that, collaborations with other YouTube bladesmiths. Oh, all year round. I didn't know that. Okay, we'll have to check that out, just for fun, if nothing else. The farmers market in Wolfworth. I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, yeah. The interesting thing about YouTube collaborations is I've watched different channels do collaborations, and they they typically seem to do collaborations with other channels that are going to help them gain viewers and that kind of thing. I don't know how that works. I don't know if you try to reach out to people and who have a bigger audience than you or whatever, or and if somebody wants to do a collaboration with me who's got a smaller audience, I'm open to that. It does have to be something that's going to sort of show off both of our best work, so to speak. So I think it's important to choose wisely how you spend your time with that. But that's definitely some possibilities there. VWS, if I've crapped. Sorry, this is G-rated. Cracked open a Lone Star. Yes, actually I have. Yeah, it's you kind of gotta have to do that, don't you? Living in the Lone Star state. All right. Somebody says, great vid, can't wait to see the chef knife. I don't know if he's talking about the Snake Skin Bowie, I'm not sure. I'm backtracking here to see what you guys are. Breakaway Books asks, what % of my business is local? Mostly none. I ship knives literally all over the world. Some in the state, but all over the country. Yeah, so, all right. So if you guys have any super ideas about how to sell knives, throw them out there. That is one thing that's cool about knife making, is that the market is vast, and if you're a custom knife maker, oh, okay, yeah, the one, yeah, gotcha. What was I saying? If you're a custom knife maker, then you're the only one making what you're making, if that makes sense. So you have to find the market for your product, and there's a vast market. So don't be discouraged by that part of it. Price on the Snake Skin Bowie, somebody mentioned. I'm going to put $1,600 on it. Excuse me, I don't know if that's enough, but that's what I'm going to go for. So somebody says, get back on Forge and Fire. I would if they would let me. I haven't heard back from them, so. So here's something to talk about. Somebody asked, have you thought about partnering with local cutlery pawn shops or any store which is known to sell high quality things? That's a great comment, because that reminds me of something. So when it comes to selling knives through other retail outlets or stores, whatever you want to call it, here's the deal on that. And I've had the opportunity to do this, but I didn't, because here's why. So I knew a guy who ran a gun shop, and he would have sold my knives for me. Other people that wanted to sell knives for me, but the problem is that they want to sell them for a price that they can mark up and get their their cut from, which is fine because they're running a store. But the other problem is that typically they want to be able to sell the knife for the same price that I'm selling it on my website or wherever you're selling it. And that's where you run into a problem. So for example, let's say you're selling a knife for $300, okay? If I'm selling a knife for $300, then that means that's my price that covers, my expenses and allows me to buy steel to make another knife and all this kind of stuff, and and then have enough money to, put into the bank account to pay the bills, to pay the light bill, that kind of thing. So I can't, but the problem is I can't sell the knife to this retail outlet for $300 because they want to be able to sell for $300 and their markup is typically, between, at the very minimum, what I've seen anymore is like 30 points up to 50. So that means I have to sell that knife to them for a drastically reduced price, and then I'm not making enough money, so it doesn't really work. The way it could work is if you find somebody who's willing to sell it at a higher price than what you sell it for, and the reason that might work is availability. So if somebody wants to go down to Bob's Gun Shop or whatever and buy one of your knives, they can go down there and buy it and have it immediately. Whereas, as some of you know, if you want to buy a knife from me right now, aside from the few that I have up ready-made, it's going to be a several month wait, and sometimes longer depending on what it is. So if somebody wants to pay an extra $50 or whatever to have a knife today, then that's fine. But that retail outlet, that store, has to be okay with selling a product for more than somebody could potentially get it for elsewhere. And a lot of them don't want to do that because it's not competitive. So that's the problem with that. Another way that it could work is if you set yourself up to do like a batch run of knives and figure out how to drastically reduce your time input and your cost input, and then sell them at a reduced price or wholesale, to that retailer, then that could work too. But that's not really how I like to do things. I don't really like to do it. If you guys have watched the channel, you know that I like to sort of try new things and jump around a little bit and do stuff. That's one reason why I like custom work sometimes, is because people are looking for different things. And so if you want to get set up and do a 45, 50 knives and just make it super efficient, then yeah, there's money to be made selling it to a retailer or whatever. But those are the only two ways that I know that it really works. And I have not done either because it's not really worth it to me at this point. So somebody mentioned, you have to cut out the middleman. So the good news though is that most people who are looking for a custom knife understand that they can't go to, the sporting goods store and and get it there. They have to go to the source. So that's just kind of just how it works. Wolf Party says, I love how your channel has changed with your energy. Thanks. Maybe some sarcasm or humor could always be. Are you saying that I am sarcastic or not humorous? Tyler says there's several nice art galleries in Lubbock. VW says, good, I'm glad it's helping you out. I'm just, like I say, I'm just sharing kind of what I've learned over the years. And back to that retail thing, because I had people that and they meant well, but they were trying to convince me to start selling stuff in wherever, whatever store. Just like, well, it doesn't necessarily work for the reasons that I just mentioned. Heavy Forge. So, all right, so somebody mentioned, somebody mentioned that they're an artist just getting on their feet. So this is another sort of rabbit trail to talk about when it comes to selling whatever you're selling. We're going to stick with knives because that's what I think most of us make here. If you're, well, okay, so some people ask, well, how do you get into that? How do you get into bladesmithing? How do you get into blacksmithing? Well, the answer is that you just start doing it, right? And most of you guys are aware of that. You just start doing it. And if you are striving to excel at your craft, and you're putting out something that is not available elsewhere, and like I said earlier, if you are your own product, so it's not going to be available elsewhere. So your customers, you're going to have customers find you. Now, are you going to have customers find you fast enough or to enough of a quantity of customers to make a living at it? Well, not at first, probably not at first, but sticking with it and consistency, that's kind of where that comes from over a period of time. But if you're just doing this as a hobby and you're thinking about doing it full time eventually, then what I would recommend is to build the specific market that you want to be supplying 5 years from now. And here's what I mean by that. When I first started making and selling knives, I was doing mostly stock removal knives, and I had a range of models, and I still sell several of these, but I had a range of like 6 to 10 models that I designed, and they're all meant to be used, but they're different sizes and shapes and different purposes, and that's what I focused on. So I sold these knives, and they were pretty reasonable. I think when I first started out, I was selling them, $150 for a 5-inch bladed bushcraft knife or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But that sort of thing was the market that I built for the first couple of years. And I noticed that when I got into more forging and this kind of stuff, and I wanted to make more elaborate, or at least higher value knives, I didn't necessarily I didn't have the market for that. It didn't just transfer, because the people that I was selling knives to, by and large, for the most part, were taking them out and using them, and the price point was such that got a piece of wire here I'm playing with. Copper wire. I was going to do something with that in a video, but anyway. And so I didn't have that market, and so I realized that I had been building a specific market, and if I wanted to capitalize on that and really push that and crank those knives out, then I could have, but I didn't want to just do that. So I had to then sort of begin to build a rather different market for some of these other types of knives that I was making. And so if you're all about like making a lot of knives and selling them at a reasonable price point, and sort of semi-production even, you might call it, then go for it. There's a market for that. But don't expect to be able to switch from that over to high dollar Damascus chef's knives, okay, for example, right? And that's what I found out, is that I had been sort of building this particular market, and me being interested in trying all kinds of different stuff and want to pursue different avenues, it didn't transfer completely, or very little. And so that's just something to be aware of. Along those same lines, what I wish I would have done early on is built my business with in-stock product, basically. So don't sell anything that I haven't already made. And this presents its own challenges, but in my opinion, it's preferable to having knives that are made to order. And I still do made to order knives. I still do custom knives, but that's kind of alleviated a little bit when it's a custom order, as opposed to and this is when I was on Etsy a lot. So somebody goes onto Etsy, they see a listing for a knife, and you've developed this model to the point where you can repeat it, to the extent that somebody sees the picture, and the product that they get in the mail is going to be close enough that they, or better or whatever, that they're happy with what they get. So it's kind of what you have to do. But the product isn't made yet, or maybe you have one made or something, but you can sell that product, and it's a stated lead time for the order, and that's great. But the problem is that you start getting orders backed up. Okay, so then you start getting a lead time, and you can keep selling product, but the lead time is going to get stretched out. And I don't really like to work that way. I like to work, it's just such a good feeling to have something made and then sell it, and you're done. Whereas, I'm thankful for the sale, but then you have to make it. You're kind of working from the back end, and it's just back end of the sale. And I figured out that I don't like doing stuff that way. But I kind of got stuck in that because that's how my sales were going. And once I had those orders, I had to get those filled. And so I didn't really have the time to, go make a bunch of stock to post that up, for sale. So just be aware that whatever sort of path you're setting out on, think about where you want to be in 2, 3, 5 years, and set yourself up for that, because it's not necessarily easy to just switch over, you know, at the drop of a hat. So that's just something I've learned kind of the hard way. And it's not, I mean, it's not terrible, because as long as I'm, you know, able to pay the bills and make knives doing it, then it's all good, I guess. But that's just something to think about. So if you want to be in the business and you're not yet, and you have the opportunity to sort of map that out, just think about what you want to do, where you want to be going, because it's not so easy to just switch everything over. So there's that. What do we got here? Excuse me. Excuse me. Tyler says, how do you handle people that want a $400 knife for $50 and say, well, I don't get too many of those anymore. I did on Facebook from time to time. I would just politely decline. But yeah, if you want a $50 knife, then then go to Walmart. VW11 says, are you into Patreon? I haven't really. I have a Patreon account, and I actually have the link to my Patreon account on most of my videos, but I haven't got it set up to where there's different tiers. I only have one tier. It's $5 a month, and that's just if somebody wants to help support. But I haven't done that. I haven't got that set up to where there's, and I wasn't sure. Okay, so I had this idea of doing, you know, member only type content, you know, for like, so more of like tutorial stuff, like how to stuff. And I don't really know what the market is for that on the channel right here. You know, I don't know if we have enough people to where it would be worth the time of putting up, you know, tutorial type stuff on Patreon for like a second or third tier level. Hey, Miguel. Doing pretty good. And Wolf Party waited to buy some hammers. Well, good news, because that foot pedal on the press should, now that I have two hands to use, that should help me, because I need all the help I can get to make stuff that you have to punch an eye in. The great thing about that is once you start doing that, you get better at it. It's called practice. As long as you're, you know, kind of doing it somewhat right. So anyway, so I don't really know about Patreon. You know, it's just if you want to support the channel for $5 a month, I don't really have anything on there that. Well, I had one supporter, and I sent him a coffee mug and a patch, Fire Creek Forge patch. But that's just another thing that takes time to set up and figure out what, you know, and I just haven't done it, so. Chris says, how much beard oil do I use? So that's a great question. I'm gonna have to start my own line of beard oil. So my wife got me some, what is it? Well, she just got me some beard oil, the actual oil, and I've been using that, but she also got me some, what is it? It's beard balm. And that stuff kind of works a little better, actually. But I typically try to put it on, well, probably every other day, but once you wash it out and it gets all dried out and scraggly and you try to comb it and it doesn't work so good. So that would be a project, a Damascus beard comb. That would be something to mess up there. So how much beard oil I use? As much as I need, I guess. Sad meal, skilled labor ain't cheap and cheap labor ain't skilled. Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. And that goes back to finding your market. Like if somebody, and this is funny because so at farmer's market, we would have people come up from time to time who did not understand what I was selling, what we were selling. Sarah was there with me. And one time this gal comes up and she's like, yeah, my sister's boyfriend makes these and he was selling them for like $10 a piece or something. I was like, huh, interesting. It's like, you just want to say something like, yeah, I don't think we're talking about the same thing, but you don't do that. So, grave before shave, grave. Okay. Wolf Party Patreon is free to manage. I guess so. I mean, they haven't charged me anything that I know of. Well, I don't know. Do they get a cut of the donations or the support? I don't know. I really don't know much about Patreon. So, all right, guys. We're an hour into this. Probably better not take too much more time, but go ahead and if you have any questions, throw them up there, and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability, and see if you guys have any shop problem. I don't know. That's the thing about bladesmithing, blastsmithing. You're always learning something, always. So, I'm sure I could learn a lot of stuff from you guys too. And I do. You guys tell me what I'm doing wrong sometimes. Because I mess stuff up on a weekly basis. Nicholas, what is the next crazy thought to try out? Wolf Party, take care. Thanks. We'll see you later, Wolf Party. I think I'm gonna make a tomahawk from some ball bearing Damascus. I'm gonna try that. Hey Daniel, what are the dimensions of the quench tank? Are you talking about the one behind me here? I'm assuming. Let me get my tape measure. So I have two different quench tanks here. I have the AAA here, and then the Parks 50. And then I have my sword quench tank back here, which is currently empty because I don't have the oil to keep them all full. The AAA here is 29.5 inches. And then the Parks 50 is like 23 inches. So, and then that's 4 feet. So I can pretty much quench whatever I need to. The AAA here is tall enough to quench even a short sword, quite frankly. So that's kind of nice. But you have to figure out how big of a square tube you have, as opposed, how much volume you have. So, when I buy the quench oil, I buy it in a 5-gallon bucket, and this thing is not full, and all 5 gallons are in there, I believe. So you just kind of do a volume calculation if you want to have it full. Miguel asks, how do I start on bladesmithing for the beginning form? Is there a way to, well, you need a way to heat your steel. You need something to hit it with, like a hammer, and then you need something to rest it on while you're hitting it. That's really all you need to start. So, you can literally dig a hole in the ground and use charcoal or coal. Charcoal is probably easier to come by, and run like a hair blow dryer for a oxygen source. If you have literally any kind of chunk or block of steel or a railroad track for an anvil, and then just a hammer. You can go get a inexpensive machinist type hammer or cross-peen hammer from a store, or for really cheap from like a secondhand store. Literally, that's all you need to start. Now, most people have a little bit of money to spend on some stuff, and so you don't necessarily have to go that primitive, but you can literally start with basically nothing. then you just have to decide what you want to make. Like I would start with a simple project. I have a few videos on simple projects for like beginner level. You know, you can look up stuff, Google it, or other YouTube channels, all kinds of different stuff. So I would just say just find some basic things and go for it. For example, some guys use what's called like a 1-brick forge, which is literally one fire brick with sort of a whole board out of it and then a map gas torch stuck on the side, and that will heat up. That'll heat up a piece of steel, you know, like half inch. I don't know. I haven't used one, but something like a ½ inch or whatever type piece of steel diameter, smaller. So you can really start with very little and start making stuff. All right, we're wrapping up here soon.
That'll finish up, okay?
Okay. What do you use to sharpen your knives? So when I put the initial edge on, I use the belt grinder with a fine grit belt, and then I'll use a series of, well, just one sharpening stone and then a Arkansas stone, and then I'll typically use a strop. That's what I use. Chris asked if I save the forge scale. I see an article say that you use forge scale for lubrication when drifting a hole. I don't. I haven't seen that. I know guys use coal powder, and I guess the reason that works is that does give it some lubricating property, but also that coal powder will burn in that hole with the orange hot steel, and that actually creates expansion of gases, which helps pull your punch out of the hole before it's all the way through. So I know of that. I don't know about the scale deal. Well, do I know anyone who sells good smithing hammers? Not yet, but I hear that I could be. Just patience. Let's see. Chad, whereabouts in Texas? We're in the Lubbock area region. Nicholas, do a series for the cheapest way you can make a blade. Yeah, might do something like that. Bubonic Roach, I'm torn between building a forge or just buying 2 or 3 burner forge from a local farrier. How much out of pocket would you say is ballpark to build one if you had to purchase everything? The last forge I built was a little single burner, which I use most of the time, and that'll get up to forge welding temperatures, but it doesn't, it only heats up like that much length. And so depending on what you're making, my wife says, I didn't do that, babe, our sneaky kid keeps breaking. Yeah, little miss comes out here. Dad, it's time to go in the house or whatever. That's funny. I would say it depends on what that local farrier is selling his forge for and what condition it's in. Because I think the last little forge I built, I think I was into it about between $100 and $150, but I already had the burner built. So if he's selling it if it's a 2 or 3 burner forge and he's selling it for a couple $100 and it's in good condition, I'd probably snap that up if you have the money. Okay. Richard, I said I had a claw hammer hole in the ground with wood and rock frame. Yep. Nicholas says, man, love that family in this one. Thanks to the missus for answering as well. Yeah, thanks, babe. Sad mule. Yeah, no, that was the insubordinate taking matters into her own hands. It wasn't the boss. Bubonic, I'm also torn between choosing between a gas forge or a coke forge. Will one alter the contents of the steel more so than the other, or are both heating processes identical? They're not identical. It's been a long time since I've used a coal forge. Well, no, it hasn't been that long because I used one in 2018. But before that, I had one set up and I used it, and it's and they're not identical. As far as the difference in what they do to the steel, it depends on how you tend your fire, what kind of coal you have. If you have good quality coal versus low quality, or if you're using charcoal. Charcoal is a good, clean fuel. They're not identical, but I wouldn't say, what I think it really comes down to is if you have an availability of coal or charcoal that's, reasonably priced, for example, then it's, do that and learn to run a coal forge. There's advantages like for one thing, the nostalgia of it, but you can, getting your heat, it will easily get hot enough to burn steel, which you don't want to burn it, but it doesn't, you're not going to have a problem with getting your stuff hot enough. So yeah, I would say that it comes down to fuel availability, where that forge is going to be, because it's going to create smoke, obviously. So if you're in a fairly populated area, neighborhood or whatever, maybe that's not the best choice. So I wouldn't base that choice necessarily so much on how it functions, because they both heat steel up and they both do it well. That's just my take on it. Now, yeah, and incidentally enough, Richie Crew, he uses a coal forge, and he built that Gunto in a coal forge and did everything. So, yeah, it's just learning how to use the particular tool. So you might, whether you're interested in large blades or whatever, it's just learning how to use that. Okay, let's see here. Brian says, don't gas forges heat steel to higher temps, and don't they have cheaper fuel costs? Coal forges or charcoal forges will heat every bit as hot or hotter than propane or gas. That's not the issue. Different gas forges, you can get, I would say that it's more difficult to get to that temperature in a gas forge than in a coal forge or a charcoal forge. As far as the fuel cost, that all depends on availability and where you're at. If you're somewhere on the eastern seaboard, or somewhere in that area, I don't know exactly. If you're someplace near a coal source, then it could be a great price and a great deal. Conversely, if you're somewhere that you have to have it shipped in, then propane probably is going to be less expensive. So it's just stuff you have to check out before you make decisions like that, and depending on where you're at. Somebody mentioned ribbon burner forges. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. That's something I will try eventually. Keep in mind that ribbon burners, well, from what I understand, they're very efficient, and they have no problem getting up to very high heats. So that's good. They do require a fan, which requires electricity. So that would be sort of a drawback, I guess. Excuse me. But for most of us, that's not a problem. Metal Man, hello, I enjoyed watching the X experiment. Thank you. I'm gonna revisit that, because this here's the deal. I've spent a lot of time making knives and making blades, but not so much time making hatchets and hammers and stuff, and it's something that I really need to learn how to do repeatably, so that I can, anyway. So we will revisit that. Bubonic roach, yeah. You can move stuff around in the coal forge quite a bit and adapt it to what you're making pretty easily. Wolf Party says, I think you know where Gunto is hanging at the end when the judges are testing. There's Japanese style swords hanging behind. Yeah, I've seen a few YouTube clips on Forge and Fire, but I haven't been watching it, so I haven't figured out where it's at in there. VW says, having never used a coal forge, how often should you change the coal? After it burns up, it'll turn into what's known as clinkers, and they're like hard kind of rock thingies or whatever, and you have to clean those out. But if you have good coal, it lasts a lot longer. And well, the best is coke, which is sort of processed coal, and it burns cleaner and hotter because all the sort of impurities are already burnt off. So yeah, it's just like feeding a fire. When it burns up, it's gone. You have to put more in, but it's all right there. Bubonic roach, ever used an induction forge? No, I haven't. I have not used one. They're becoming more popular as of late. You know, you can buy the stuff to build one, or you can just buy one. But again, there's other things. You have to have a water source, for example, and usually it's self-contained, where you're pumping water through that coil to keep that copper from melting. But for certain things, I'm sure they work great. Yeah, and the cost is, I mean, they're not cheap, but if you build it yourself, I think you could save money. But again, that's electricity too, so. All right. Metal Man says, I metal detect and have found many old axes forged the way you're trying. I know this because they're usually missing the bit. Interesting. Yeah, I think that was a pretty common method for a couple of reasons. Like material availability and dimensions and stuff. So, yeah, the biggest problem that I've had with that and I've tried similar projects in the past, is getting it to weld right here to the, and I think what I need to do, I was thinking about this today, is I need to go with a little higher heat. So, and also the fact that low carbon steel welds at it has to weld at a higher temperature than high carbon steel. So that's, anyway, we'll get there. try to become a real blacksmith. Yeah, so what's coming up on the channel here? Talk about that real quick. Well, we do have to finish the Snake Skin Bowie, which I said that last time, but we've made some progress. Excited about that. Have that mosaic piece of steel, that mosaic bar that we made a little bit ago, and I'm gonna make a chef's knife out of that, actually. So I got to do that, and then I've got a few other ideas up my sleeve. I think I mentioned the ball bearing Damascus tomahawk. I think that could be a thing here. So, yeah, this is okay. Bubonic roach, build another hydraulic press. I support your idea to do so. Yeah, I will have to sit down and figure out how to, well, okay, I think to do that, because we talked about this in the last live stream there, and if you guys weren't there or something, the idea of sort of crowdfunding a hydraulic press build, which would result in detailed step-by-step instructional videos for those interested in building their own. And so doing that, and I'm not sure quite how to get enough people. I don't know, I got to think about it a little bit more because we have to have enough people to fund it, and I'm not sure if that means that you. I don't know how to do that yet. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Still thinking about that one. What would be great, actually, is if the channel got to the point where, and it will, I'm confident of that, gets to the point where that could just be the content and it would pay for itself. And so that's kind of where we're going. So I guess my only concern with like a GoFundMe or whatever, like if we get, you know, a few people on board or however many, and then we have enough to start the project, but what if we don't have enough to finish it? Like, how would that work, you know? So I'm not really sure. Metal Blueberries, sorry I'm late. Yes, you are quite late, tardy. Anyway, how's it going? For the people that are asking about Patreon, I do have a Patreon account, and I do have the link in the video descriptions on almost every video. The only tier that I have right now is like a $5 a month, but that's because I haven't really, I haven't really promoted it and like, you know, taken the time to set up the different tiers and stuff like that. So it's all a process. That's all I can say. But anyway, I thought there was something else I was going to show you guys, and I can't remember what it was. I guess I don't have anything else to show you. So anyway, that's kind of it. That's kind of what I had for tonight. Daniel says it looks like you're on pretty consistently, or 900 subs. Yeah, I haven't really actually kept track, but I'm not a math whiz like yourself, Daniel. So I'll take your word for it. Yeah. So anyway, any more questions, anything like that, guys? I think we probably need to wrap it up here in a minute. It's a work night, you know. So, hello from behind enemy lines. Where is that? Like New York or something? I don't know. Was my press worth building? Oh yeah, absolutely. The press was a game changer. Most of the stuff that you see on the channel would not be happening without a press. Tyler, yep, you bet. Metal Man, do I like Texas? Yeah, I like Texas. I'm not gonna lie and say that I don't miss where I came from, because that's kind of where I grew up, and my wife and I both actually. So it's just, there's just something about, you know, being where home is. But we're enjoying Texas, and I don't know that we'll stay here the rest of our lives, but it's been a good opportunity. Frosty Tea Burner, did I put a flare end on mine before I put it in the brick forge? No. The hole that goes through the brick is, I sort of drilled it out in a conical shape, and the bricks are 1 3/4 or whatever, so that is the flare, and it works great. What you doing? Hey, Sherry.
I just came out.
How's it going?
Good.
Good.
You done with your video?
Nope, still doing the video. Yeah, have a good night. All right, thanks. Oh, California, yeah, that's kind of behind in lines. One thing I do appreciate about Texas, of course, is the, you know, well, the politics, if you want to say it that way, the politics. Oh, my wife says our polite child has to come out. She, of course, got permission. Yeah, that one's not the the insubordinate currently. Don D, I just bought a 12-ton coal iron press waiting for ship. That's cool. You will enjoy that. And that's the other thing. I built an H-frame press. If I had to do it over again, I might go with a C-frame because of that range that you have. Like you have, you know, over 180 degrees around your die instead of, I don't know what it is at like 30 or 40 degrees in between the frame. And again, it kind of depends on what you're making, but it could be important. Chad says, yeah, you went from beautiful woods to dirt and wind when you moved to Lemon. Yeah, well, there's a couple things that I really do like about it. It's that it's dry because I don't like humidity. And what's the other thing? Oh, the sunshine. We really enjoy that. So the part of Idaho that we came from has about 8 months of cold, gray, rainy, blustery weather a year. About 8 months out of the year. And that gets a little old. So I don't miss that part. There's parts of Idaho that are not like that. So yeah, I used to catch scorpions and have them fight fire ants. I don't know where to find fire ants, but I have thought about making a clear resin handle with a scorpion in it. I think that'd be kind of cool, but I have to get a vacuum chamber for that. Sad mule, sounds like UK weather. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, or kind of like the coast. Metalman asked, with the press, do you feel you need a power hammer? Well, yes. The thing to understand is that they are not the same tool. They can do a lot of the same operations, but the way in which they do them are different, and in some respects, they are not. They don't do the same stuff. The press really shines when it comes to working large sections of metal and just making them thinner. But they're different tools. So when it comes to like forging things, like shaping things, I think a power hammer would work better. A couple of people say you want a pressure pot, not a vacuum chamber. I'll have to look into that because I don't know. I don't understand that so I'll have to look into that because my understanding is getting the bubbles out. So I will have to research that. Oh, there's safety third. Safety third. So I'm thinking that my 7 o'clock time might have been a little too early. I don't know, for some of you. I'll have to research that. Pressure pot gets there. Okay, I didn't know that. All right, those are two different things. Well, that's good to know before I went and messed something up.
It's getting way too loud now.
Safety third, yeah, my kids are still running around causing havoc. No, that wasn't the boss. That was just another insubordinate. Nate Dog, what's been your biggest challenge in foraging so far? Let's see. Apparently making these things. No, but really, that is yeah. I like some of these different blacksmithing. If you some of these blacksmithing skills that I've spent most of my time bladesmithing or making knives, and there's a lot of different techniques and things that go into actual blacksmithing that I have not learned yet. And so a lot of the stuff I'm learning because I want to make some of these things. So just I feel kind of silly because just simple what should be a simple thing like punching eyes and stuff. I've kind of struggled with that, but I don't know if it's I will get there. I will. Wolf Party must have his hammer. Jeff says, if you don't have any fire ants around, then you are lucky. They're everywhere here in Dallas Fort Worth. Yeah, I imagine it's very different climate. We were like I mentioned last time we were over there a couple weeks ago. We're actually at 3,600 foot elevation here, and so we don't have a lot of the creepy crawlies that the rest of Texas does. We do have scorpions and I guess tarantulas. I haven't seen one of those yet, but we don't have a lot of the other ones. Metal Man says, I'm ashamed to ask, but I know you as Fire Creek. What is it? It's in the About section on the channel. People call me by lots of things though. Let's see here. Bubonic, I think your hog splitter is one of my top favorites of your builds. I have dreamed of making Damascus patterns. Yeah, that was a challenge. A storm of wrenches is awake, everybody. Yeah, that was sort of a challenge because I tried several different things that I hadn't done previously, but we got through it and made a pretty cool blade. So that was fun. Paint portable pressure pot from Harbor Freight. I'll have to look into that. See you, Tyler. Metal Blueberries asks, is it possible to achieve a hamon on a San Mai? Well, it depends on the type of steel you use, but I don't know why you would want to necessarily. But yeah, I think it should be. Nate Dog says, is there any other smiths that you follow on YouTube? Yeah, I follow Kyle Royer. I follow Jason Knight a little bit. He's kind of goofs off more than he does anything else, though. Well, lately. Who else? I like. I've been watching Timothy Dyke. Is that how you say it? He's up in Canada. He's had some neat projects. Who else? There's a couple other guys I've been kind of keeping up with. Ailey Knives, he's up in Kansas. And then the Rivers Experience, I think he's down by San Antonio, but they've been doing some stuff. Yeah, the dogs out there are going crazy. Not my dogs. Oh yeah, I've watched, and I've watched from time to time a lot of other ones. I've watched That Works. Yeah, I've seen some of their stuff. Yeah, Jason Knight, he didn't finish his junkyard. Probably because it broke and he doesn't want to tell anybody. I'm just kidding. How do I spell Ailee? I think it's Ailee. Freirk Waringa, or however you say that. I've watched a couple of his. So yeah, I've as far as the ones that I follow, it's pretty minimal, but I've watched a lot of different smiths on a lot of different projects, so I don't remember them all by any means. And yeah, that's a lot of there's a lot of different smiths out there, and most of them you can learn something from. I think the way I see it is if they're willing to spend the time and commitment to build the channel and keep doing that over a period of time, then they probably have sort of a commitment to the craft and probably are worth listening to. So that's just my idea on that. But yes, there's a lot of different ones on there. Yeah. What time is it? I don't even know what time it is, guys. I should probably wrap things up here. Probably. So thanks for the questions. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Chad, yeah. No, I know a few guys use the DaVinci power hammer on YouTube and stuff, but the press is definitely nice. 9:45. There you go. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. Oh yeah, Daniel says Shurop. I don't know how you say that. He does some different cool things too, or a lot of different blades, Damascus stuff. But anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll do this again. I don't know when for sure. I might take a week break and focus on getting some projects done. But as always, thanks for watching. So, yeah, just reading the last few comments here. Don't want anybody to feel like they're left out. So, anyway, yeah, appreciate you guys watching, and glad to do it. Enjoy it. I enjoy it, and we'll see you in the next video. So, take care and have a good night. Now I have to figure out how to get out of this. All right, see you later.